Let's look at another place where the NIV deliberately mistranslates to try and smooth over a contradiction. In the 9th chapter of Acts, we find a recounting or a retelling of Paul's conversion. And in verse 7, we read, "And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man." So in verse 7 of chapter 9, the men with Paul do hear a voice, but they don't see anybody. Now, if we look at this same conversion story in the 22nd chapter of Acts, we can see in verse 9, "And they that were with me saw indeed the light and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake to me." Wait a minute. Chapter 9 said they did hear the voice but didn't see him. Here it says they see the light but didn't hear the voice. That doesn't sound like an inerrant word of God to me. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to go back and change the other one? You could change it to make it say that they did hear the voice, but what the NIV actually does is they change it to say, "But they did not understand the voice of him who was speaking to me." But that doesn't make any sense, because the word there is not the word for understand, but the word for hear. If we look at the word itself, akuo, we go see what that means. To be endowed with the faculty of hearing, to hear something. Now, Strong's tacks on at the very end to comprehend or to understand, but I don't think that has any support in the manuscripts whatsoever. And we don't see any link here to any verse like that. And the only one that I know about is the one that NIV is deliberately changing, which I'm showing you right now. If you look at all the other translations, they're all the same, except for the ESV. For some reason, is wanting to change it too. I guess they caught on to the difference. Since it was both in the same book of Acts, they were able to find it, so they want to smooth it over too. But the King James, New King James, all these other translations, RSV, ASV, Young's, Darby, they all say the guys did not hear Jesus talking. But the NIV, well, we can't have that. So they change it, and they make the word hear equal understand. But there's already a Greek word for understand, and it's used 3 times in the book of Acts, chapter 24, verse 11. And that word is ginosko. So the author of Acts knew the word for understand. Don't you think he would have put that in the verse if that's what he really intended instead of the word for hear? And another point is, in all the other places where the word hear is used, the NIV doesn't translate it as understand. So you getting the picture? It just is a very, very sneaky way for the NIV to shift these things to make it seem like everything's in line, everything's jiving, everything's adding up. But it doesn't. It's only adding up because they're deliberately changing the meaning of words, inserting words, and going with an extreme majority of manuscripts for their translations. Boy, this pizza sure tastes good. Wish you were here to enjoy it with me. Heck, I guess you are here. You're watching the video. So look, in short, I didn't go into like mathematical proofs here or doing a hardcore, ironclad thing where I go look up all the instances of the word for hear and show that the NIV didn't translate them as understand. And we would be here all day. Suffice it to say that the NIV is mistranslating verses in order to remove the problems. We saw it with the burnt offerings. They actually deliberately inserted the word just in order to flip that verse to make it say that he did talk to them about burnt offerings and some other stuff instead of not talk to them. It's a completely different meaning. We saw that same tactic here in Acts, where they just completely changed the meaning of the word. There's no sense of understanding there, because the whole point was that they didn't hear the voice, but they saw the light. You see, they saw the shining light. So it's context is arguing against the NIV. The same thing that happened in Jonah. An important city requiring a 3-day visit, or was it a great city, so great in size that it took 3 days to walk across it, and that's why Jonah entered into the city a day's journey in the very next verse. Oh no, but we can't let context come into play when it's inconvenient, right? So anyway, there's lots more of these that I know I could dredge up and find. Anyway, that's all for now. Maybe I'll do another video some year. Anyway, hopefully that was interesting, and I'll talk to you later.